Hi, everyone. Good morning to all of our viewers and those who will be viewing it after the live show that we have right now. So, welcome to another episode of empowerED live discussions, and it's our episode number 11. It's actually our second to the last episode for this series, and I'm just very excited because we have been moving. We've been discussing distance education, online distance learning education this time of the pandemic. And in this month, August, if you have been with us for the previous episode, you've heard discussions about Buwan ng Wika, why we need to celebrate Buwan ng Wika for the past two episodes. And we have another special episode again today. We're not talking mainly about the pandemic, but we will touch about it, especially in the area of education. But we are very happy to have to produce this collaboration with the Department of Education's International Cooperation Office under the leadership of Dr. Margarita Ballesteros. So she has been very kind to collaborate with us so that we can continue spreading about the ASEAN month, so that we can further increase awareness into our rootedness as members of the ASEAN region or ASEAN region. All right, so I'm just very happy again. I hope that you were able to say your Sunday prayers or be part of a Sunday worship. We are still in the quarantine right now. So again, we continue to pray for our safety and for the good health of everyone. And by the way, just today, we've heard a very sad and unfortunate news. One of my personal icons in education and everyone's favorite, Sir Ken Robinson has died. He's one of those key education leaders who have put the discussion on creativity in education as part of the mainstream way of looking into education right now. So we are very sad. But we are very thankful for the contribution of Sir Ken Robinson to the whole education system around the world. All right, so just to start our discussion, good morning to all. We have people from Bicol, people from Rizal, from Catanduanes, from Cagayan up north, from Isabela, from the Cordilleras. Hi everyone, Naimbaga bigat yu amin. Very proud to be part of the Cordillera region and Ilocano also. We have someone from Las Piñas, and because this is an ICO event, I'm pretty sure Director March has invited a lot of visitors or viewers. We usually have someone from Cambodia, Indonesia, Peru, and countries around the world. So thank you so much for supporting us every weekend. So I'm going to bring up a very important person who has been partnering with us, Dr. Margarita Baleasteros. So, Director March, good morning. Naimbag nga bigat mo.
Hi, Jim. Naimbag nga bigat. Good morning. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Personally, we are just happy. My sister was under home quarantine because of exposure. So I myself have to quarantine myself. So we're just very happy because we are safe and healthy. How about you, Director March?
Oh well, here it's a gloomy day because it has been raining all night and now it's windy. So you can imagine how fresh the air is and how cool it is. It's to me it's a beautiful Sunday morning. And I started like after the Sunday mass, I went around and picked string beans, flowers of squash, lady's finger, and timely for the famous Ilocano dish, pinakbet.
Pinakbet. Yeah, something I missed. I've never got to learn how to cook pinakbet, but I want to learn how to cook it. So let's start, Director March. Thank you so much for producing, for helping us with this collaboration. We're very much happy that you have trusted empowerED to further talk about the ASEAN. I'll just introduce our first guest for now, and then Director March will take over because she will introduce the other special guests that we have. So let me bring up Miss Chandler Ibabao. She's representing our the teaching sector, as we talk about the ASEAN right now. Chandler is a teacher in Cordillera, and she will be speaking much about it. I don't want to speak about her project for now because I want her to tell how she has been, helping us know more about the ASEAN or the international cooperations or projects that she has right now. Good morning, Chandler.
Good morning, sir. Naim Bagyo Bigat. Good morning, Direct March.
Good morning.
Good morning,
How's the
everyone.
weather in Apayao?
Today is a sunny day, but yesterday it was a rainy day, ma'am.
Oh,
Lakas po ng ulan kahapon.
All right. So thank you,
The
Chandler, for
weather is
being here
good.
with us. The weather is
Thank you,
good.
sir, for inviting.
Yes, yes. It's an honor to have you here. And then Director March, uh, whom are you going to introduce first?
okay. So it's my turn. We
Yes,
also
Director.
have Jim this morning. They say we will save the best for last. So we will have another boss and also one of the icons of the ASEAN, especially in the Philippines and in the region. So let's have our good friend who happens to be the education and cultural attache of the Indonesian embassy in the Philippines. And I told her, soon before you retire, you have to join us now and then so that you will have good memories virtually and also with people who have been working with in the education. Let's all welcome our Education Attache of the Indonesian Embassy, Dr. Lili Nurlaili. Ibu, salamat pagi.
Selamat pagi, good morning, Dr. Director Margarita Ballesteros. Good morning, Dr. Francis Jim Tuscano. Good morning, Dr. Chandler. And then
Good
from
morning.
Ambassador, okay, thank you. Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat.
Thank you so
To our
much, Dr.
friends
Lily.
in Indonesia, salamat
Yes.
pagi.
Pagi.
Salamat pagi, Dr. Lily.
Salamat pa.
Selamat pagi.
And our main speaker for today, who we will be listening from her sharing, is currently the Assistant Secretary of the Office of the ASEAN Affairs of the Department of Foreign Affairs, and at the same time the Director General of the ASEAN Philippines Secretariat, a good friend and a boss at the same time. Assistant Secretary Junever Mahilum West, or we call her Amba Jones. Good morning, ASEC.
Good morning to all. Selamat pagi. I hope everyone's okay, safe and well.
Thank you, Amba. Um, Director March, I've been when we were planning about this, I told Director March I will need her help and superpower because we have very special guests and we're really saving. This our second to the last episode, and we will be taking some break next week before we go to our last episode. And we're really happy to be here. And personally, this is something that I want to talk about because I admit, as an educator, this is something that we don't usually focus on because there are a lot of challenges in the school, and sometimes we forget this rootedness that we have as part of this ASEAN region. I mean, when I hear Southeast Asia, I usually the thing that comes in my mind are the travels, the the overseas travel that I have for vacation, but not much about the cooperation that is happening, right? So the first question that I want to ask to everyone is, why do we have the ASEAN month? why do we need like Filipinos that are watching right now, especially educators and even students, why celebrate and be aware of this ASEAN that we have? Maybe let's start with Her Excellency Amba.
Yes, I just would like to add also that it's very good to be here, and thank you for the invitation for us to join me and talk about this very important topic. You mentioned ASEAN Month. It is by law enacted in the Philippines that we celebrate ASEAN Month for the month of August. It just shows the importance to the Philippines of ASEAN. And why is it important? Sometimes we in the Philippines, we are an archipelago and physically and geographically isolated because of our setup. But it pays to know, we have to know that we form part of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, composed of 10 Southeast Asian member countries, which are our closest neighbors, our closest friends, with whom we are building an ASEAN community, integrated community, politically, economically, socioculturally, and also in the aspect of education. So that's how important ASEAN is to us.
Um, that was very it gives me a perspective that when we talk about ASEAN, it's not just something, it's not a very simple thing that we need to understand, because it encompasses political policies, all those stuff. But one thing that I love about this is, well, as an ordinary citizen, is how we build connection within the culture that we have. I love going to Malaysia. I love going to Singapore, and knowing that I have this Southeast Asian culture, or the identity within me, it makes it easier for me to communicate with people from Malaysia, from Singapore. Um, just a personal sharing when I go to international conferences or even international communities, the Southeast Asian people really, come together. We look for each other. I don't know if this is the Southeast Asian thing. We look for each other and we feel comfortable with each other. Um, Dr. Lili, in your perspective, why do we need to celebrate and be aware of this ASEAN cooperation integration that we have?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Francis Jim Tuksano. Because we are the Asian. At the first time, maybe we are still remember. At the first time, the ASEAN only 5 country, and then that is the originally from Indonesia and Philippines and Malaysia, something like that. And right now is 10 country is already make a collaboration with under ASEAN. Why we are very important to make a collaboration in ASEAN? Because we want to make the the country in order in ASEAN. We must need together. We are must build up the country, not only the side of education, but several area, for example, economic, and then tourism, culture, and then especially for today is a lot of students from all of the ASEAN, they are study. For example, more than 150 students from Philippines, they are study in Indonesia, and then more than 350 students from Indonesia, they are study in Philippines. That is one of the big chance to all of the ASEAN. They are just share the education, and then to growing up their country. Thank you.
Very wonderful answer, Dr. Lili, and thank you for giving us insight about how concretely we are taking advantage of the unity and the oneness of the region, like the exchange programs for students. It's really wonderful to hear those concrete ideas. We will know more about the concrete ways of how we take advantage of the cooperation that we have. Director March, I'm going to the Dep Ed sector right now. Director March, if you may add, in the Department of Education, we've been pushing for this. It would be great also, Director, if you could share like the big why of the push for this recognition in our in the education sector in the Philippines.
Okay, Jem. Well, as a rejoinder for what Amba Jones or Asset Jones has shared earlier, aside from it has become a Republic Act for the celebration of the ASEAN Month, well, for the Department of Education, we do have our calendar of activities every year. And when the law came out, and then I think it was during the time when we hosted the ASEAN in 2017 with then ASEC Helen de la Vega. That was the time wherein the ASEAN Day and the ASEAN Month celebration is also included. And personally, I have been like nagging colleagues who actually look into the calendar, and at the same time, a part of the advocacy of the International Cooperation Office is to go around and bring to our people down in the region to the division level on what the international commitments are that includes ASEAN and SEMIO, of course. And when we talk of ASEAN, we have downloaded money or funds to support ASEAN activities at the division level. So every year, and this is already our third year, I guess. Yes, it's our third year. We're in. Funds are allocated for them to celebrate the ASEAN month, and we are now actually collecting their activities, and hopefully we can do it before the month ends so we can have it shown on our ICO Facebook page, if not on the website of DepEd, on how our regional and division offices have been celebrating, not only celebrating, but also, of course, responding to the call of making our people, our teachers and students, get to be aware of what ASEAN is. What benefits do we get from ASEAN, being a member of ASEAN? And at the same time, we do like conduct quizzes or quiz bees. Like last year, it was sponsored by PTB4. And of course, this is in collaboration with the Office of ASEC Jones at the DFA. We also, as DepEd, we also have distributed the handbook that came and produced from the Department of Foreign Affairs, and they were produced in 3, if not 4 languages. And we have sent as far as the Bajau schools in Basilan, where I have been, and that of Cotabato. That's the farthest part of Mindanao. I've been to Sarangani as well. And here, the farthest would be in Pachacan, which is like the boundary of Ilocos Sur to that of Mountain Province. And aside from all of these activities and the funds and all that, we should really start at the Department of Education on instilling on the young minds what ASEAN is all about and what benefits do we get. And also, of course, now this year, since we are looking at the ASEAN with one identity, that's one of the many conversations we have been having with teachers in the division level, and also, of course, at the central office through the ICO's office.
Thank you, Director March. I do remember, I think, being in one of your event, like a co event, for ASEAN or ICO's international event, and me being part of it. And I also had the pamphlet thank you for giving me a version of the pamphlet also that we have for the ASEAN. I think those are very wonderful ways of us promoting more about the ASEAN. I'm going to Chandler right now. Chandler, as a teacher, how do we get these things more concrete? Since we are more in contact with the students, with the learners that we have, are there some things that you want to share about how we promote it in your school, maybe, or in your school community?
Yes, Sir Jim, good morning. I am very happy that I am invited here to talk about my experiences and how do I do it in my own end. Like what Ibu Lili has mentioned a while back, I am a teacher and I am a product of the good relationship of different ASEAN countries because I am one of the exchange teachers. I am a KPTEP 2019 alumni. And my experiences when I was in South Korea led me to do some projects or initiatives that can help, most especially the indigenous people in my community where I am now. And as a teacher, I can also share what I learned in the education system of South Korea and as well implement it in my own little ways. I am doing the project ATA, which is under the DepEd ICO under Director Mards. Thank you for the all-out support, Direct. And I am coordinating with the different agencies in our province, like the IPMR, the National Commission on Indigenous People, the local government, and the provincial government as well, in order to fund or give support to the project I am doing.
Thank
Thank
you.
you po.
Thank you, Teacher Shanda. I think that those are very good examples of how we could foster cooperation around the bigger Asian region also, and it's really wonderful to hear teachers bringing in that kind of cooperation. Director March is no stranger in the international cooperations that we have. Director March has seen a Philippine Canada project cooperation for the longest time, and we have been expanding. And thank you for sharing all of those things to us. Um, um,
Jim,
yes, Director March.
If I may just expand a bit of what the teacher Chandler has shared, we have this cooperation with South Korea that she mentioned, and of course, Korea is a dialogue partner of ASEAN and a very good supporter of ASEAN. In fact, Amba Jones can tell us something about more later on. But with what Chandler has shared, her experiences is also with some of our ASEAN neighbors. They were in Korea with the Malaysian teachers, the Thai teachers, the Vietnamese teachers, the Cambodian teachers, and also it's worth mentioning Mongolia. And
Ooh.
yesterday we had the International Youth Summit. Virtually, of course, which was spearheaded by one of the KPTEDs of Chandler, batch 2019, and they invited Cambodia was there, Vietnam was there, and it was a good sharing on how the youth are being mobilized or how what action the youth are doing in response to the sustainable development goals. There was Nepal, there was Mongolia again, and Bangladesh, of course. But I zeroed in listening to what Cambodia was sharing, and also that of Vietnam. And I could say that our teachers are not really left behind in terms of having their own advocacies as well. Like Chandler, she adopted how many children, Chandler, and she spends her weekend teaching, and also
Uh,
she tries to nag our local government units so that they will give full support in the provision of like food, school materials, and books. That's why I was telling her, if only Apayao is like a few hours, then I will spend time walking up the mountains. But it's like how many hours, Chandler, to reach your place?
If you are in from Ilocos, sir, ma'am, you have to spend 6 hours by
6 hours.
bus. Yeah, by bus. Because
By
if you
bus.
are from Manila, yes po. If you are from Manila, you will spend 12 to 13 hours by bus.
Oh no, it's like going to Cagayan Valley by bus. It was going to be 12
Yes.
to 13
Yes,
hours.
sir. Yes, ma'am.
That would
But
be
you
very
can do it.
interesting. That would be very interesting. I'm from Abra, so I'm no stranger with long trips. I would love to. I would love to visit Apayao also.
Okay, sir.
And
You're
I'm
Dr.
welcome
sure,
po.
Jim, pwede
I'm
mo
sure ASEC,
may I add something?
Yes,
I'm sure
yes.
ASEC Jones is familiar with what we call the horseshoe drive.
Not very much.
That yeah,
Not
that you
very
have
much.
to go to if you have to take the land trip. Or if I don't know, Jim, if you're still familiar with the northern landscape, you take the bus from Manila, or maybe you drive Manila to Lawag. You cross
And
the
then,
border of Lawag and the Cagayan, and you go up. Then you go through. Oh, I don't know if that is already going to Apayao. Then down, up, go to Baguio. Then down again, back to Manila.
wow, I've never done that. I've never done that, but I hope to try it when the pandemic ends. Um, Amba Jones, you wanted to say something a
When we
while ago.
can. Yes, I wanted to share kasi na-inspire ako sa mga sinabi ni Ma'am Chandler at saka ni Doc Marge. Ang importansya, especially on education cooperation ng ASEAN for the Philippines right now. Kasi marami na tayong projects dito sa education system natin na nagsimula pa noon pa. However, with the onset of COVID-19, lalong naging mas urgent. And then ngayon, it fell into our laps that the Philippines is inaugural chair of the ASEAN Tibet Council. Itong Tibet Council na ito ng ASEAN was established because of the initiative of the Philippines since 2017 when we were chair. Also, we have a milestone coming up. DepEd is the host of the ASEAN Education Ministers Meeting. September ba yun, Doc Marge? In September? Sometime in September. Later this year. So, with all these things happening, it seems that the education sector has to shoulder a lot. For example, yung malaking inaasahan natin sa education sector when it comes to achieving Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which is ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. This is under the ambit of the United Nations. Doon naman sa ASEAN education integration, we have ongoing activities already like student mobility, yung binanggit po nila kanina na exchange of students, exchange of staff among educational institutions, regional accreditation of qualifications para mas maganda yung mobility ng ating workers and professionals, joint researches. For example, right now, if we could have joint research projects on vaccines and medicines to deal with COVID-19, that would be good. And quality assurance standards. So all of these are for Sustainable Development Goal number 4. And then siguro kasi kami sa ASEAN, we deal with ASEAN every day. And I forgot to mention kanina na August 8 is the foundation day of ASEAN. That's why we have ASEAN month in August. And aside from DepEd, marami sa ating mga agencies, merong mga celebration activities as well. Online nga lang at this time because we have to rely on virtual activities, but they're all happening. Like NCCA, National Commission on Culture and the Arts. We are partnering with them for the Sama Sama ASEAN webinar, which I have not been able to attend because of other webinars that we have. So it's very active yung commemoration ng ASEAN Month.
I love that there are a lot. I love that there are a lot of projects, a lot of happenings and events. It's really I feel very very proud that hearing even with the ASEAN collaboration, ASEAN countries collaboration with other countries, it gives that idea that there is much more of what we can do to further increase and make the global community be aware of our, the Asian representation. Right now there are a lot of discussion about, race and how we represent the different races. Director Marge would know this because I always talk to her about my challenges. For example, in speaking in front of the international community, sometimes it's very challenging because they see you as the Filipino, brown skin color, person of color, thing, and sometimes it gives me. I always have that thought. I've shared this before last week. Sometimes as you speak in front of a sea of white people, sometimes you get that get that feeling. But I'm so happy right now because there's a lot of project, and we're putting up ASEAN representation out there, and really telling everyone that we have this kind of cooperation to really help each other move forward right now, and to represent our own region. Thank you for the wonderful rejoiner, Amba Jones. I want to focus on a little bit on what is happening right now, pandemic. And I had the chance to talk to Dr. Ethel of the CMEO Secretariat in one of the podcasts that I have. And she mentioned about, the big challenge really of how the ASEAN region is coping with the pandemic in education. I want to go to Dr. Lili. Dr. Lili has been one of those. I've seen how she worked hard, use her platform as an office, as an education attaché to really bridge Indonesian teachers and Filipino teachers and different teachers around the region to help each other at this time of the pandemic. Dr. Lili, can you tell us or share to us what you have been doing or your office has been doing at this time of the pandemic to help teachers?
From starting March, we are closing together in the same area because I'm just 15 March. I'm just arrived from Indonesia, and then that is the last airplane I know, and we not have anything to do. Before March, I'm already have a lot of activity for education between Indonesia and Philippines. For example, I'm making international seminar not only in Philippines but in Indonesia too. I'm bring the professor from Philippines and then give seminar international in several area in Indonesia. And then I bring every month I bring not only 20 but more than 30 and 50 teacher from the basic education, junior education, senior education, vocational education. They are making a benchmarking in Philippines, and then I make it like that the organization, or I make it the activity like that from 2017. And from 2017 until February 2020, already more than 200 teacher is coming here. They are benchmarking in the Philippines. Why they are making benchmarking in Philippines? Because the education Philippines more higher than Indonesia. Not only for the activity in the classroom, but for the assessment, and then for the teaching learning, and for the important thing for the character student. They are just only they need a queuing everywhere. That is very beautiful. And before March, not only making a benchmarking and then international seminar in here, we already have making a culture experience. I mean, I bring a student and then there are presentation, several dancing from Indonesia, and then make it that situation in around Kalamba. But after March, that is the close everywhere, not only in Indonesia, but together in Philippines too, and then more than 200 country is already closed. Because of that, I'm just changing my project, my activity. I'm every day from May, June, July until September. I'm making a lot of webinar international. What kind of the webinar international? That is webinar international for the education, especially the participant is from Indonesia and from Philippines, and the speaker is from Indonesia and Philippines too, not only from the Ministry of Education in Indonesia, but from the Department of Education in Philippines, included Dr. Margarita Ballesteros and then Dr. Francis Jim Tuxano. They are very beautiful, give explanation about education, about blended learning, assessment, and everything. And I'm making everyday webinar international too for the student college. I mean for the higher education. And the speaker is professor from Philippines and professor from Indonesia too. We are collaboration. We are just give explanation and experience what we must to do in this the same situation about COVID pandemic. And then
Doctor,
I make it a webinar. Can I?
yes, Dr. Lily,
Okay.
go, go.
And then Dr. Lily, go. Yes, I not only education, I make it webinar international for the health, especially for nursing. Why? I'm very need more information about nursing in Philippines, because nursing in Philippines is very famous and very highest competition in around the world, because a lot of nursing from Philippines, they are working more than 80 countries in the world. Because of that, I need nursing in Indonesia. Maybe they have the same cooperation, or they have the same knowledge about nursing. And then from July and then August and next September, I'm making a webinar international, but for the research result about COVID for the several area: education, social, economic, law, and then architecture, chemistry, and everything. For example, Monday, I'm making the webinar international for research result, and then the speaker is from a professor from University of Philippines Diliman, and then 3 speaker from Indonesia. They are already done making a different area for research around COVID-19. Thank you very much, Dr. Jim.
Dr. Lily, thank you so much. I love that the cooperation, we're taking advantage of webinars to further continue helping each other. It's really exciting, and Director Marge and I have been part of the wonderful projects of Dr. Lily, and it's very refreshing because a lot of Indonesian teachers and Filipino teachers are really, they really attend the webinars, and they really ask a lot of questions, learn from each other. It's so exciting. Um, I'm gonna go to Amba Jones. Amba Jones, from your perspective, what has been like for the education systems around the ASEAN right now in the pandemic? What has been the challenges, opportunities, and things that we are looking into right now?
Thank you for that question, Dr. Jim. As you know, the whole world is adjusting to COVID-19. So lahat ng education systems all over the world are adjusting. And I think the Philippines, along with other ASEAN member states, are also doing their own adjustments and addressing challenges, as well as spotting opportunities. And I just wanted to share that as host of the ASEAN Economic Ministers meeting, the Philippines has a chance to help shape the agenda of of education cooperation, and also to work on the details of the work plan on education cooperation for the period 2021 to 2025, I think. So that's a big role to play. And as I've already mentioned, a lot are resting on the shoulders of education in order to achieve ASEAN integration and also to achieve all the sustainable development goals under the United Nations, not just about education. So I have been doing some readings because these challenges and opportunities are still emerging. But what I noticed is that some are predicting, there was an article published by the World Economic Forum that there's going to be a revolution in the education model that we have because of COVID-19. As you know, we have to rely on online platforms, and that happens all over the world and all over ASEAN. But we are rising up to the occasion. And I just would like to cite as an example the pupil from Alicia Bohol, yung viral photo. He had a very nice classroom, which was built especially for him by his parents, by his guardians, under the tree, because that's where the signal was strongest. And, with online classes now, they had to find a spot to have a good class online. So that's the example of creativity, of innovation that we could give and multiply that in all ASEAN countries. Then I think we have a good hope to be able to forge our own way in terms of education systems in our own region. So there are challenges kasi syempre for online learning, we need to have the infrastructure. And of course, we need to have the equipment, the devices that the pupils would need. But at the same time, there are opportunities. So it's a matter for us to manage these things. And aside from our cooperation with other ASEAN member states, we also have dialogue partners, 10 of them. We already mentioned Canada and Republic of Korea. We also have Eastern European Union, United States, Russia, China, Japan. So we have 10 dialogue partners. And I would like to share with you what the ASEAN Secretary General said during the 25th anniversary of Vietnam's membership in ASEAN, that after COVID-19, we cannot rely on business as usual ways of doing things. We need to upscale our efforts, and he advised bolder engagement with our dialogue partners in order to, for one thing, address the challenges of COVID-19. So we have to do that, step up our efforts, and then we could deal with the challenges and opportunities.
All right. Thank you, Amba. That was a very wonderful rejoinder and more clarification on what we have been doing. There are a lot of challenges, really. All of the countries, when I did the research for UNESCO and Education International, all countries are really suffering in terms of education sector. And, it's nice that we are learning from each other, the best practices, like Dr. Lili adopting this, Chandler, being a teacher right now, I'm pretty sure she's preparing a lot. Um, Director Marge saw my Facebook post. That was my tita, my mother, my sister are public school teachers in Abra. A lot of the members of my family are actually teachers in Abra, and she was in full battle gear, quote and unquote. They were going to the different houses because even after enrollment, what I love is that they're still visiting them, asking them what kind of need or what is the need for them, what do they need so that they continue learning. And it's such a wonderful, no, it's such a wonderful picture that I saw on how it speaks, like teachers like Chandler, my mother, and everyone has been really working hard. So learning from each other, best practices. And I agree with Amba Jones, there are opportunities that we can, we can find in this very unfortunate era that we have right now, but we keep on moving forward. Director March, Director March said that it's pouring raining at her place. So before we lose her
Yeah.
connection,
Oh well, it's pouring rain. And before I get disconnected, I would just like to also share well some of the things that are ongoing with DepEd under, of course, since education is under the ASCC or the ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community. We are like the first webinar series, we looked into the special needs of children under with special needs. So we look into the Bangkok Declaration on Advancing Partnership in Education for the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in the ASEAN. And here we look at how inclusive education at all levels of education and training could also eliminate disparities for the vulnerable, marginalized, and those with special needs in particular, and our out of school youth, children, and youth. And DepEd sits at the preparation of the framework for the equivalency framework for the out of school children and youth, and this is headed by one of our ASEC who takes care of the alternative learning system. And in that webinar also we look at the ASEAN, of course, the what ASEAN Enabling Master Plan 2025 has, which is the mainstreaming of rights of persons with disabilities. And we had speakers from New York who is handling SPED, and our very own director for the Bureau of Learning Deliveries. And we received good feedbacks from SPED teachers and also that of the Autism Society of the Philippines, where the president joined us. And as regards to what Amba said on her sharing with what the Secretary General of ASEAN on the 25th anniversary of the membership of Vietnam, I like what he said when he actually with a very strong force on his voice when he said ASEAN should have at least a bolder, should be bolder, engaging at the same time in this time of the pandemic. And I think in the first 2 months of this pandemic, we have always been saying this is also an opportune time to look where we failed and to look where we can start all over again and become better teachers, better school headmasters, better members of the Philippine society, or even maybe better citizens of the world. And it's true. And I would always agree with what Ban Ki-moon said, the Secretary General of UN, when they were discussing about global citizenship education. And this is actually the the one of the many subjects discourses that is also ongoing not only at the UN but in all other education sector all over the world. And when we talk of GSED, We don't only talk of who we are as ASEAN, we also talk of what we can do for this world. President Nixon has said, don't ask what the country or what the world can do for you, but ask yourself, what can you do? Thank you, Jem. Or else I will become emotional for that. Now that it's raining so hard on my end.
I Director March, thank you so much. That was a very timely reminder. Whether we're talking about education or life in general right now, that was a very wonderful way of pushing us. We want to push ourselves further, but in pushing ourselves further, we need to go back into our own selves as individuals, reflect on what we have failed, or stand up again and look at the better, not just to look at the better side of things, but really to move forward by knowing what we have failed on, and asking ourselves what we can do, not just for ourselves but for other people. Very wonderful insight, Director Marge. We've talked about the different projects. I want to give the spotlight to Chandler. Chandler, you mentioned about Project Aita. What, aside from Project Aita, or maybe together with Project Aita, what preparations have you been doing right now to continue, preparing yourself for the new school year at the new normal?
Okay, good morning once again. As a teacher, we should be proactive, creative, and always responsive to the needs of our school children. In our school, we are preparing modules. Actually, we have done the priming modules and the module dry run, which we are now expecting some of the modules to be finished and be submitted to us on Monday. So every now and then we have to visit our students, our learners, in order to see how far they have gone with their modules. We have to be patient enough to go from house to house to see whether they can really cope up with the new trend of this new normal in terms of their education, because in our province or in the community where I am teaching, most of the parents are working. Sometimes both are farmers, both are working in an office. Some parents are working as an OFW. So we have to consider those things in order to understand the situation of these learners. We have to understand their pacing, how fast or how slow they could answer the whole module, because in the preparation of the modules, we are using the contextualized modules because there's no thing as one size fits all. So we are using the modules prepared by our teachers in our division. But if there are no modules prepared on that certain subject, we may get from the central office, from the modules given by the region or by the different regions, or from the central office, and then we will use it. But we prioritize to use those modules prepared by our own teachers in the division. With the help of our barangay officials, we coordinate with them in terms of collecting modules. Some of them are volunteering themselves to help us in monitoring those learners. If parents could not come to us in our school, then we teachers should go to their houses, especially to those learners who really need assistance. With the parents who are not really educated as well, they really need our assistance. So we have to go in their houses to give full assistance. And since we are now reporting in school every day, we are there so that anytime parents could come and ask whatever help they need in answering those modules, sir.
All right, that was Thank you so much, Chandler. I've seen you work hard. I see your post, and every teacher. It's so exciting right now to see. We're really stretching what we mean by being a teacher. Before, to be a teacher is to be in the classroom. Right now, being a teacher, and I see this with my mother and my titas. Being a teacher really even asks you to go to the schools, no, to homes, and be more um, be more in the context of the learners. Of course, following precautionary measures and things that we have right now. Very interesting because we've seen how the whole of DepEd is working. We have DepEd Commons that is being put up. We have seen DepEd TV, and these are the ways. These are the ways through how we are moving forward. There will not be a perfect answer. I think that's one thing that we need to understand. There will be no perfect solution or answer to this because we are doing this for the first time. But I am happy, like what Amba Jones has mentioned, Director Marge and Chandler, we're learning from our own experiences right now. And the best thing too, I think the one thing that we can do is to amplify what we have learned. Amplify through learning from each other, collaborating. Dr. Lili, I hope Dr. Lili comes back. Dr. Lili is an example for one example of a leader that really brings in collaboration and takes on the new trends, quote and unquote, in doing things right now. So very wonderful answer. Thank you so much, Chandler. We are now on the last stretch. Um, we are now on the last stretch. Our battle cry, the battle cry of DepEd, the battle cry of everyone is that education must continue. Final words from our distinguished panel right now about ASEAN, or maybe final things that you would want to share to our audience right now. Amba Jones.
Thank you, Dr. Jim. I would like to share also what one of my favorite UN Secretaries General has said, Kofi Annan, that literacy is the bridge from misery to hope. So I think it applies to us even more now with the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think we have to have international, regional, and national cooperation to do our part in moving forward the agenda for education. And we are doing that right now. And also, I just would like to flag with everybody some of the important things that we need for our future society, the future that we want. So, of course, achieving the social development goals, particularly goal 4 on quality education. We have to have education as a public good. It should be accessible to all. It should be a multiplier of opportunities. We have to prepare for the fourth industrial revolution, digitization, and of course, we have to put in place cybersecurity measures. We have to have connectivity in all its dimensions, hindi lang sa mga ports, airports, roads, bridges, but digital connectivity as well, and people-to-people connectivity. We need to do human capital development, upskilling and reskilling. We need to give support to our micro, small, and medium enterprises, and also to innovation. We need public health and resilient public health and social welfare systems. Of course, we have to have inclusive growth, and we have to narrow inequalities. We need green growth, low carbon footprint in our economies, environmental protection, biodiversity conservation. We need to focus on the blue economy and what we could derive from it. We need to deal with climate change mitigation, and we have to have a gender responsive recovery from COVID-19. So that is connected to Goal 5 of the Sustainable Development Goals, gender equality and women empowerment. And Education is involved in all SDGs. So education has a big role to play, and education needs the support of all stakeholders to be able to do its job. Thank you.
One wonderful, Amba Jones. Just to personally tell you also, and Dr. March knows this, we've been integrating SDGs in our classes in my school. It's really part of the one thing that we've been doing, and I got inspired also by Director Marge's projects on SDGs. We've been also trying hard to put it in our curriculum so that we could further increase the awareness of students on the SDGs. And I agree with you, education is one vehicle in achieving those things. Thank you so much, Amba Jones. Dr. Lili, final words?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jim. I just want to mention like this. Indonesia have the regulation to open a school, and then we are already open only 8% school from the 1st of August. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic still going in Indonesia, last month is already 30 teachers already died because of coronavirus. And then this week is already died to another province because of the coronavirus. Because of that, I just want to mention to Philippines, if not ready to open the class, we are better using still online. And then for Ministry of Education, they have a lot of regulation. For example, we open movers teachers. And then what kind of the mover teachers? It is for the online teaching learning, and then workshop, conference, and companies meant for the student. And then we make a differentiated learning, a community of practice and social and emotional learning. And that is just information about what the Ministry of Education to cope this COVID-19 for the activity. We already open, but still closing again because of the a lot of teacher is already died. Thank you.
Dr. Lily, thank you for the timely reminder about the safety of everyone, especially our teachers also. Thank you so much. I'm going to save Director March as the last final word because this is in collaboration with ICO, her good office. I'm going to move to Chandler for now. Chandler?
Okay, sir. So my last words. I think positivity is the best because if we have positive attitude, we will always achieve what we want to do with our learners and with our community as well. As for me, when I started, I don't have any fund out of my hand, but because of this attitude, I was able to get some sponsors to start the project and then became I had also to expand the project. So from these different sponsors, I was able to share not only for the IPs, but also to the regular learners of our school. So we should not keep it for ourselves. We have to talk to others. We have to encourage other stakeholders. We have to collaborate with the different LGUs, private individuals in order to have some support for whatever we plan for the benefit of our learners, like what ASEAN is being like what ASEAN community is doing, that solidarity and unity to have more impact to our learners, to our citizens, and to everybody. So we have to work together in order to have better society.
Thank you so much, Sandler. We will pick up your final message of positivity and taking part, doing being in solidarity with others and taking advantage of our unity as an ASEAN community. And before I go to Director March, thank you so much for our viewers who have been giving sharing their thoughts, their reflections. We are very happy that you have picked up a lot of new things, or maybe we're able to reflect based on what our distinguished panel has been sharing about our topic for today. So thank you so much. I don't see any questions, so it's very fitting right now. Maybe Director March, final words and a final push for everyone to know more about ASEAN right now.
Thank you, Jim, and to Asik Jones, Amber Jones, to Ibo Lily, and to Chandler. Well, Jim, Amba Jones knows this, but I'd just like to highlight the priorities for the ASEAN 2020. And the first one is actually on peace, security, and stability. Second is on regional connection. That's where cooperation comes in, partnership, and we take advantage of opportunities. Third is on its ASEAN identity and awareness about who we are, and of course, the ASEAN community. Fourth is the enhancement of ASEAN's global partnership for peace, stability, and for sustainable development. And the last is to increase one's institutional capacity and effectiveness. All of these are ASEAN's 2020 priorities, but with education, with Amba Jones as a rejoinder with what she mentioned earlier on what we should be looking at where education cuts across. It's really something that we need to work on, not only with my fellow educators, but of course, in particular, our support that comes and that emanates from the local government units. Especially at this time of pandemic, DepEd is banking so much on your support on bringing education, especially to our first, I call them the first miles schools, but in the document, it's the LMS or the last mile schools in the Philippines, where we have to look at the needs, not only of food or security or whatever, but more on the education part. Here in my area, I have four girls who I see every day, and I would challenge them. I always challenge them with a question every day. What book did you read, or what story have you read, or what story did you get to hear from radio or maybe on television? And then they will always say a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So I would always say a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then we will be able to
I think we lost Director March, but I'm getting her point. A little bit of this, maybe a little bit of that.
I hope
Well,
you heard me before I got a bit disconnected. Hi, Jem.
Director March, can you? We didn't hear. We lost your connection, and we stopped at a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I think that's a
So
pearl of
you heard me.
wisdom.
So
Yes.
hello. So I was saying a little bit of this and a little bit of that, as that mentioned by that little girl who I always ask every morning or in the afternoon when I see her. I told her a little bit of this and a little bit of that. When you grow up, it becomes part of you, and you make sure you become a better citizen of this place, of the town, of the province, and of the country, and of the world. And just a quick nod with a smile, and I'm assured, and I share it gladly, that there's future after the pandemic. This pandemic having been treated as an X-ray for us to see which is bad and also see which is good, both we see them on the lens of faith. Faith that there is something good that will come out from this, aside from the collaborative efforts of governments all over the world, but also in the education sector. Our ministries of education all over, not only in the ASEAN region, not only in Southeast Asia, but all over the world, everything has been accessible. They're sharing in Mexico, they're sharing in Argentina, or even in Italy, or in the United States, or in Belgium, or in New Zealand, Australia. You can now see that just like an X ray, you see on the lens of faith that look at them. They are doing something good. New Zealand is now zero case. Singapore, for example, what about us? If we see things in a bad light, we will stay there and we don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But with all of these things as an X ray, there is light behind that sheet of plastic where you could see and it radiates for us to zero in what has been neglected. And we try to get up from there, as we said earlier, we get up from where we stopped and we try to look at the better side and we try to do something and double our efforts to make sure that we prepare our people, our kids, children for a better tomorrow, not only after COVID, but even beyond COVID. Thank you and magandang umaga po. Salamat po sa pagkakataon na binigay of course ni Jim for us to get to share. And of course, thank you Ambassador for Ambat Jones for giving us your time. I know you have been very busy.
No, it's
Same
my
thing with
pleasure.
Chandler and Ibu Lili. Jim?
Thank you so much. I love your closing remark, Director March. I will not do a closing remark now. That is already a wonderful closing remark. Thank you so much, our viewers. Amba Jones, it's a pleasure. It's an honor really to have you here right now. It's I hope that we meet in person. Director March, I know that I know a lot of people because of Director March right now. So thank you, Director March, for connecting me to Amba Jones. Dr. Lili, thank you for always supporting empowerED. Dr. Lili she messages me and she says that she loves empowerED and our shows and the workshop that I give. Dr. Lili, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jim.
And of course, Chandler, thank you for bringing us, sharing to us your expertise. Really, we appreciate your work as a teacher, as a fellow teacher. I am really amazed by the work that you've done. We continue to bring these best practices and share it to everyone. Of course, Director March, thank you for always supporting empowerED, supporting my project. We love that you have been really very very much supportive and very much pushing a lot of things that we want to learn about the ASEAN, Buwan ng Wika, and DepEd projects in general. Thank you so much. And I don't want to
Jim,
keep everyone. Yes, Director March.
before you take us out from StreamYard, may I plug something as well? On Wednesday, 26th of August, we will have the last series of the ASEAN webinars of DepEd in partnership, of course, with the ASEAN Affairs of the DFA. It will be on the ASEAN Heritage Parks. So we will do a lot of traveling virtually and we have guests who will be talking about these parks so that it's high time for our teachers and the well traveled individuals not only in the Philippines but all over the world to get to see what we have in the ASEAN. it would be good. Like you, Jim, you travel a lot, and maybe it would be good to bring your mom or your sister to these heritage parks first in the Philippines before you go to the ASEAN neighboring countries. When I saw those heritage parks myself, I said, "Oops, I have never been to like more than two of them." I mean, but in other places I have seen, but here in my own country haven't visited all, and that's my goal for 2020. I don't know how it will be because of the pandemic. I will just do it virtually. So guys, those who are watching us now on Facebook Live, we invite you at the webinar on Wednesday, 26th of August on the ASEAN Heritage Parks. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Director Mart. So don't forget about August 26th and the special event that Director March has prepared and cooked for every one of us. We will take a break for the next 2 Sundays as we prepare for a very special episode on September 13 as we celebrate the second anniversary of empowerED, the education platform that we have right now and the personal advocacy that we have. We're very much excited because just a clue, I will not be hosting the empowerED session on September 13. That's our last episode on our first season. Instead, we will have a very internationally recognized teacher to host the event for us. So please keep yourself posted, follow us on Facebook or on YouTube as we wait for the announcement. So thank you so much. Amba Jones, it's a pleasure, it's an honor to have you here. Dr. Lili, Chandler, and Director March, thank you so much again. Salamat pagi. Agyaman kami unay to those Ilocanos out there, fellow Ilocanos have been supporting me also. And happy Sunday. I hope that everyone has a great lunch. Bye, everyone. Bye, distinguished panel, Amba Jones, Dr. Lili, Chandler, and Director March.
Salamat po, Sir Jim. Salamat po, Direct Mars. Salamat po, Amba Jones and
Daghang
Doc
salamat,
Lili.
Amba Jones.
Daghang salamat po. Ayo-ayo.